Let's read some Glitch in the Matrix stories, part 172. Why do these filters always come up? Was it confirmed that I was abducted by aliens? I've carried a memory with me since 1996 that continues to haunt me to this day. However, it really amped up its what the fuck factor in 2013. Now here I am 10 years later in 2023 consuming Auntie Matrix stories like it's a goddamn buffet of confirmation for the weird shit we experience in this world. So thank you, Auntie and the Glitch community. Yeah! Alrighty, here we go. It was a warm summer night in 1996 in the burbs west of Portland, Oregon. I was 10 years old and per usual, I was outside until forced to come inside for the night. I was alone peacefully laying on a small grassy hill in our backyard staring up at the stars in the clear night sky. My memory recalls it as if in one moment I was just relaxing looking up and the next moment I see a giant disc-like craft hovering in the sky above me / our house / the street. It seemed big, slowly moving away to the east. I remember, wait, how did you know it was going to the east? I don't understand how people know directions so good. I am so bad at directions. Okay, back to the story. I remember it looking metallic with lights circling the bottom of it, a ring of larger round lights and rings of smaller track lights, classic flying saucer style. I wish I could tell you more, but that's where my memory of that moment stops. I don't remember it disappearing or anything other than suddenly seeing it and watching it move off to the right of me in the sky for a moment, and then nothing. I didn't share my experience with anyone because even as a 10-year-old, you know it's considered crazy talk. I mean, it was the mid-90s after all. Even with our beloved X-Files and Star Trek and such, people were definitely thrown under the wacko bus for trying to seriously discuss such topics. I knew I'd be called crazy, imaginative, or just have it reduced to a dream, so I kept it to myself thinking no one would believe me. We believe you! And frankly, I wasn't sure if I believed me. I constantly questioned this experience in the days, months, and years that followed, but every time I had the rational thought it must have been a dream, something deep down in my gut kept pushing, you know what you saw. The feeling that it was real was undeniable, but logic, skepticism, and fear of embarrassment kept my mouth shut and kept a big question mark on my memory for many years. Flash forward to late summer of 2013, it's after dark and I'm pulling up to my parents' house to visit, the same house I grew up in. As I'm getting out of my car, I see the neighbor from across the street, we'll call him Frank, out in the middle of the street with his binoculars looking up at the starry sky. We say hi and a short cordial chit-chat quickly turns into, do you think there's aliens up there? At this point in my life, I'm full of woo and totally open to all fun, juicy topic. Frank says, I definitely think there's aliens, in fact, and begins telling me of the summer of 1996 that apparently held a lot of sightings for Oregon. That summer, both he and his wife had witnessed UFOs on 2 separate occasions. As soon as he said 1996, my brain quickly perked the hell up. Frank first tells me of the night that he was coming home from a graveyard shift at Intel, driving down country roads towards our neighborhood with his coworker driving in the car behind him, both heading the same way. They both witnessed a bright flying orb buzzing through the forest parallel to the road, tracking them for over a mile while moving in ways no man-made flying object could possibly move. Eventually, it took off and disappeared through the forest. Then Frank started the story that sent chills through my body. Later that summer, his wife, we'll call her Tara, got out of bed one night to get a drink of water before she fell asleep. She started down the stairs heading to the kitchen only to stop on the middle landing that looked out through the window above their front door. The view from that window had you looking across the street towards our house, specifically on the side of the property where the grassy hill was located, the one I was laying on the night I saw the UFO. Tara froze in her tracks when she saw what she described to Frank as a huge saucer hovering above that side of our property, except what she saw was a bright beam of light coming down from it, describing it as a large upside-down Roman candle firework shooting towards the ground. Tara immediately ran back outstairs in complete fear, checking to make sure that her kids were safe in bed, and by the time Frank looked out of their bedroom window, nothing was to be seen. Oh my God! I stood there on the street with Frank, goosebumps everywhere, and my mind racing a million miles a minute. I was ecstatic for such an unexpected and specific form of validation after all these years of questions, while at the same time completely chilled by what it might mean. I then proceeded to tell Frank my story for the first time. When I finished, we stared wide-eyed at each other for a while. We eventually agreed that it's hard to not make the assumption that Tara and I both saw the same UFO on the same night in 1996, but what she saw seems to indicate that I was perhaps very likely abducted or at least observed by the craft. It's now 10 years later from that moment on the street with Frank. It's taken me some time to decide if I really want to go this route, but y'all, I'm ready. I'd love to gather recommendations from people who've worked with hypnotherapists dealing specifically with alien abduction cases. So Glitch community, help a friend out. If I find someone to work with, I promise I'll come back with an update. Nervous but ready. Love you, weirdos. Amber Man. Amber, what a story! Okay, glitches, let's go. Let her know your recommendations for a hypnotherapist that can help her. Oh!